new season of 60-plus racing adventures and to a brand new circuit in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's the streets of St. Pete to open up a new season. This is the iRacing League for drivers 60 years of age or older. It's a unique proposition in the world of sim racing, but it is a long-running and well-loved league. We're bringing a new season in the Indy Next car to you here from St. Petersburg. The Indy Next car has had a couple of adjustments and the drivers can't wait to kick off their new season. To bring you live coverage here on RaceSpotTV, I'm David Haynes with Dan Field. Dan, this is a challenging car for the streets of St. Pete, but here's the rest of the calendar.
Absolutely, it's a fantastic calendar. Of course, we are at the brand new St. Petersburg tonight. And then next week it'll be Barber, also been readjusted for Season 2 of 2026 on iRacing. Suzuka, Algarve and Long Beach follow. And then we are live for the Nürburgring GP. We head to Mosport, Indianapolis, Sebring, Montreal, and then Belle Isle for round 7 through 11. And Brands Hatch will be the final round of Season 38 here. And of course that'll be live here on RaceSpot as well. But for tonight, can't wait for today.
So at the end of last season, Greg Seitz wrapped up his championship. The last driver to take a win was Roberto Catalano. He has been loving this car since they made the switch to the Indy Next chassis. And of course, we're bringing you 3 rounds this season live. Of course, beginning here at St. Pete and then Nürburgring in the middle. And the season finale, will we have a new champion? We'll be able to find out in 12 weeks' time here on RaceSpotTV. Qualifying just underway right now. Pete Thomas is leading the way. Don't mind being on one of those yachts either. Roberto Catalano from Pete Thomas and Todd Scholl at top 3.
Absolutely, it's relatively close at the top of the order. Roberto Catalano on a 1 minute 5.007. Pete Thomas just 600ths of a second behind him. We are watching the number 33, Peter Hallstrom, on a lap at the minute. Currently 1.6 off the lead as it goes right now. Just 3 minutes left of this qualifying session before we get into the race. I believe we've got 23 drivers, if I'm not mistaken, this evening. So it should be a very fun, very stacked grid tonight.
Correct there, 23, of which it looks like 20 have set qualifying times. No qualifying time for Earl Setzer, Ulf Olsen or Frank Butler. This is, of course, a challenging track with very, very little room for forgiveness. Street circuits, that's of course their defining characteristic, is that the walls are close and a hit on the wall could prohibit you from setting any time in qualifying if you weren't careful. And then you might have to be very, very careful like some of the other drivers were. But the times in the midfield have been pretty close, so expect some good racing. Indy Next car's been slightly adjusted with less push to pass. We'll see how that affects how the drivers race, but I think survival is the first order.
Yeah, already the Indy Next cars are very difficult to drive. They've got a bit more power than the Super Formula Light, I believe it is, and the F3 cars or F4 cars, whichever one it is. My mind is already losing control of what is actually relevant to these cars, but they are very difficult to drive around this very bumpy street circuit here in St. Pete. New to iRacing as well, just added in the most recent update. That will make it very difficult for these drivers to actually know where they're looking to benchmark this evening. There's nothing really to go off before, like we've seen in previous seasons of this beautiful, brilliant 60-plus racing adventures Indy Next series. Nevertheless, just a minute left in qualifying. I don't believe there's anyone left out on circuit, so this should be the starting order for this evening. And now I'm looking at the timing tower. I don't spot reigning champion Greg Seitz on the grid this evening.
No, the closest I can offer you is Greg Garris, who's qualified 6th, but yeah, Roberto Catalano finished very strong at the end of last season, runner-up in the championship. Now putting his best foot forward here on the streets of St. Pete. 600ths of a second quicker than Pete Thomas. Todd Scholl. Trevor Lawrence was one of the last drivers out there using the tail end of the session to qualify 4th. I see meatball flags for Randy Shoemake and Ulf Olsen, which means that their qualifying probably ended in the wall. We'll need to try to avoid that. In the 24-lap race coming up, there will be 2 races, both 24 laps. We're heading to the grid now for the first race of this new season of 60 Plus, and it feels new because we're on a new track. But one thing that remains the same, Roberto Catalano on pole position, Pete Thomas alongside him. Row 2 is Todd Scholl and Trevor Lawrence. Row 3, Kevin Bergquist and Greg Garris. Then Mike McCormick and Barry Hills. Newer driver to the league, Michael Petersburg and Curtis Yorison in 10th. Roger Shank, also potentially new to 60 Plus, has qualified 11th. Eugene Clark in 12th. 8 more cars have set qualifying times. They are Peter Holstrom and JC Hay, Steve O'Malley and Randy Shoemake, Russ Addy and Douglas Beasley, Oyvind Anderson and Jerry Kerr. The 3 drivers who didn't set qualifying times are still able to start from the rear of the grid if they want. That is Earl Setzer, Ulf Olsen and Frank Butler.
It's always good to see such a wide mix of drivers, both new and old, to the 60 Plus Racing Adventures grid. Lots of names I recognise throughout previous iterations, as here they are on their formation lap, getting ready to go.
The Porsche pace car is in. The green flag waves now as they come down the airport runway, the front straight here at St. Pete. Tyres are cold for everyone, but the track is warm in the Florida sun. Braking early, but braking on the paint to turn into turn 1, and now it becomes a street circuit through 2 and 3. Pete Thomas is all over Roberto Catalano as they head down towards this big braking zone at turn 4. Things get very narrow here with the change of direction, and you don't want to get in too hot. You need to set yourself up to then change back into the left-hander. Sequence of 3 right-handers, the crown of the road and all of the bumps through here make it challenging. And then you're on to the back straight. 65 seconds of push to pass, not active yet until the end of lap 1. Roberto Catalano holds on to his lead through that challenge. Oyvind Anderson has been one of the first drivers to find the tyre barrier.
Other than that, it's been a relatively clean start. I believe Douglas Beasley has been involved in an incident as well, but it's been all clean at the very top of the order as they are heading in towards the final corner to complete the first lap. 24 runs they will take at this circuit. The driver in focus at the minute is Trevor Lawrence, still holding on to P4. And for the top 5, they've all remained in the exact same position. Only swaps between Mike McCormick and Greg Garris in 6th and 7th. It seemed the car ran very deep into the first corner. I believe that is newcomer Michael Pietrzak.
New positions changing side by side here. Curtis Yorison from slightly behind is looking down the inside and makes a move into the top 10. Push to pass now active, but has been more than halved from 150 seconds down to just 65. The drivers need to be way more tactical with it in this length of race this season.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic change, I believe. I mean, it really creates more strategy towards the driver's usage of the push to pass. You only get just over a minute of it when you had nearly 3 last season, so it's a fantastic change. And here is Trevor Lawrence right on the back of Todd Scholl.
And he is using it, so is Todd Scholl in defence, but I think Trevor Lawrence got a slightly better run, looking to the inside of the first turn for 3rd position. They're going to battle wheel to wheel, and they are going to touch Trevor Lawrence around in his quest for 3rd place. Challenging spot to rejoin. He's unfortunately watching half of the field, 3/4 of the field go by. He was looking for 3rd place. Now he's struggling to even get rolling from the standing start.
Disappointing for Trevor Lawrence. He really committed a lot to that move, used about 9 seconds of push to pass. And I believe that there was only fault of Mike McCormick, who drops it on his own and into the barriers. Oh, a fantastic incident there. There's a car up on its side. I believe that is Michael Pietrzak. McCormick missing his rear wing entirely. And he's going to have to take this one home somehow. He's going to get it towed. And that is a massive, massive incident there that has completely split up the field. Now the top 5 miles ahead of the rest of the field. That was a sensational impact there.
Third place just a little bit cursed, or maybe there was some lingering damage from the wheel-to-wheel contact at turn 1, and a few of the drivers appearing on the scene there around the backside of the circuit, with Pietrzak almost getting launched. So it gives Roberto Catalano a 1.4 second lead. Pete Thomas has very little to worry about in second place, because what was third and fourth have both in separate incidents cost themselves dearly. Todd Scholl then works his way into third place from Kevin Bergquist and Roger Shank. We ride on board with Randy Shoemake, elevated into 10th position from 16th on the grid. He is nimbly navigating himself through this part of the track. Exit from this right-hander feels critical. He misses just a little bit of that crown and camber of the road as they battle in front of him. Hay, Clark and Addy. We make that switch to look at Russ Addy. He goes down the inside and makes a spot.
Absolutely brilliant move there from Russ Addy. It was textbook up the inside, and now Eugene Clark is going to lose yet another position to Randy Shoemake, who we were just on board with. And that was really a joy to watch, actually, the onboard shot of both Randy Shoemake and Russ Addy. Speaking of which, he's back on to the push to pass, trying to close down the gap to JC Hay. Trying to take P7 off of him. And in towards the first corner they go. Randy Shoemake very deep in towards the first corner there. Has been able to keep it on circuit, to say the very least, which is a good thing from him. So we check back further down the order. Trevor Lawrence still trying to make his way up the order, and he's just got through on Ulf Olsen.
He has, I think, Lawrence went as low as about 17th position, is now back up into 14th. Last time we saw Russ Addy, he was in 10th. He's now 8th place, just in behind JC Hay. This has been his favourite place to make a move, and he's going to try it again. The drivers are expecting the overtakes to come into turn 1, but at the end of the back straight there, a good exit from that challenging narrow right-hander, and he is able to then look to make moves at the end of that back straight. Seems to be catching a few people a little bit asleep there as well.
He's really enjoyed it. I believe that's in towards turn number 11 that he likes to make that move. Here's Randy Shoemake in towards turn number 1. Down the inside of JC Hay, but he misses his braking spot completely. Keeps it out the wall, but will cost himself 3 positions. The one he's just made up on JC Hay. Eugene Clark's through, and as well as Peter Hallstrom. And this is really bunching up the midfield pack now. And so in towards the next right-hander, you can see about 7 cars, maybe 8 cars in your shot here, fighting all for 7th position. And I believe the last car in this train is Trevor Lawrence, who spun out at the beginning of lap number 3, I believe it was. So he's found his way very nicely back into this fantastic fight that we are witnessing.
All-important exit of turn 9, kink of turn 10, turn 11, left-hander. Now you follow some speed with the chicane into the final hairpin, which opens up very wide at the exit, but doesn't really make it all that easier. This is JC Hay and Eugene Clark, teammates, heading down the front straight as Hallstrom, Shoemake, O'Malley and Pietrzak get closer. Pietrzak, the fastest driver of this whole group, closing immensely quickly. Might we now see some moves towards turn 4? Certainly the drivers think that they want that, but they're going to collide. Greg Garris hit from behind.
It's not what you want, is it? It really isn't. And You got to give a little bit of leniency to these drivers, given that it is a brand new circuit on some adjusted Indy Next cars, which in their own right are only about 6 months old. So to really build up that muscle memory in these cars, it's a very difficult task to do so. So a little bit of leeway has to be given. We are watching Steve O'Malley at the minute in a very nice Williams livery. Now in towards the final 2 corners. He has got Michael Petrusek right behind him, but Randy Shoemake just in front. Petrusek is on the push to pass, headed down the main straight, this airport runway, and towards turn number 1. Will he look to the inside line? Indeed he will. Michael Petrusek down the inside of Steve O'Malley and will make that move through the first corner, but used up a lot of that push to pass to make that move happen. The number 50 didn't touch an ounce of it.
Only 12 of 65 seconds left. Incredibly depleted the use of the push to pass, and he's got a lot of moves still to make. Now he goes through turn 8, turn 9 here. This one is so critical. Petrusek turns in early, but hooks the camber of the road very well. So the car placement at the apex proving very important. He now closes in on Randy Shoemake in this group. 8th through to 13th on your screen. Not yet to the halfway point of this first of 2 races.
Absolutely, there's still plenty of racing left to be had this evening, as Petrusek is once again on the push to pass, but he's using all of his resources and in fact will run out of push to pass at the beginning of lap number 9. So he's really depleted his resources, will leave him vulnerable for the rest of the race. Everyone around him has got at least 55 seconds left in the tank to utilise. This won't stop him, headed down in towards turn number 3, I believe this is, looking to the inside of Randy Shoemake. Will go later on the brakes and will make that move very nicely. So Petrusek certainly very aggressive this evening, but is really putting on a good show for us.
Absolutely, with some work to do in the remainder of this race. He's now got Peter Holstrom just a little bit worried. Roberto Catalano's lead just over 4 seconds. He's used a bunch of his push to pass, but Pete Thomas in second has not. Todd Scholl in third has just barely touched it, but had a scruffy lap last lap and was caught significantly by Kevin Bergquist, the top 4, pulling away from the rest of the field. Down the front straight, the teammates of Hay and Clark remain close. And Randy Shoemake, Steve O'Malley for company.
Move that's just been made. Eugene Clark and JC Hayes swapping positions, and now Hallstrom inadvertently gets out of the way. Possibly there was some infraction whilst they were driving and he's decided to concede the position. I'm not quite sure. This will leave him vulnerable to Randy Shoemake in behind. Steve O'Malley, Trevor Lawrence is also involved in this scrap. He's right at the rear of that battle. And Petrusek down this straight and towards the next left-hander is all over the rear of JC Hay. Matching liveries with Eugene Clark, but they've got different wheel rim colours. So it's the yellow on JC Hay, and Petrusek is really, really aggressive into the final 2 corners. We saw that last lap with Hallstrom, and now he's putting the same moves on Hay.
And there's been just a tiny bit of contact behind them. Barry Hills and Trevor Lawrence coming together. You'll see some of them heading to pit lane in the back. A shot there. JC Hay covers off Petrusek. Randy Shoemake runs a tiny bit deep. Hallstrom has cleared the way for a few drivers though, so Shoemake's also gone past. Steve O'Malley just behind them there. Challenging to overtake cleanly around here. More so than even some other street circuits, so we already know it's a characteristic of street circuits. But how about the inside of turn 9? Oh, that is a very, very brave move from Petrusek to get down the inside there.
Well, you know what they say, fortune favours the brave, and Petrusek is one of the bravest of them all. He's got a heart of a lion, getting the move done on JC Hayes. Got about a 3-second gap to Eugene Clark now, and he's not got any push to pass left to play with aside from 1 second which he'll certainly be using sparingly heading into the latter half of this race. We're on lap number 12 of 24. The drivers in focus are just about to pass on to that now. And looking on the timing tower, it seems like Pete Thomas is getting onto the battery a little bit, trying to close that gap into the first corner. Steve O'Malley's getting aggressive.
Yeah, so able to see the drivers battle side by side through almost every corner. They've all given it a go. To turn 4, where you can go in quite hot, but then put yourself on a less favourable line for the change of direction back to the left. Turn 8 here, and then the most critical thing is just getting up against the wall at the apex at turn 9. A little bit like turn 2 at Mount Panorama. There's just a little bit of road camber and to it, where there's heaps more grip on the inside than there is even just half a car width wide of it.
Really fun circuit. It's a fantastic circuit. Really difficult to get right, and it's essentially, to me at least, a bumpy Monaco. You're so close to the wall, but then you're just bumping all over the place. It's so difficult to find the grip, especially in these relatively high power Indy Next cars. It's certainly difficult to find the grip. We've seen a couple of drivers come a cropper this evening, but it's relatively calm at this point in time, other than that massive incident we saw with 3 drivers and someone up in the wall. I believe that was Barry Hills that we saw sideways in the wall earlier on, but yeah, very unfortunate situation there. The leaders are coming onto lap number 14. We're still spectating these drivers down at turn number 9, so it's safe to say, Dave, this is a very wide field spread this evening.
There's always a few things that create a larger gap in the field, and it's when it becomes more challenging. So rain creates a greater spread of lap times between the top and the bottom of the field, and so too do street circuits like this. So when we go to some of the road courses, the field will be closer, but all of the little things like this just create a larger gap between haves and have-nots. Steve O'Malley down the inside versus JC Hay pulls the car up, and that will work out. Peter Holstrom gets much closer now. Fastest lap of the race, though, belongs to Pete Thomas, who's managed to find his push-to-pass button. He's not going to let Roberto Catalano get away too easily to the lead of this race, while Scholl is also being caught in some margins by Kevin Bergquist. O'Malley, Hay and Holstrom through this sequence at the top end of the track. Turn 5 through to turn 9.
It's great racing so far this evening. We are on board with Peter Holstrom trying to find JC Hay, and with this onboard shot you can see how much he's bumping around all over the place, finding every single groove on this fantastic new addition to the iRacing litany of circuits that are available on this game. Is Holstrom with a good exit on the rear of JC Hay, heading in towards the first corner they go. He's not utilising the push to pass, not searching for an overtake into this very wide first corner, and it is a little bit misleading at how much berth you're really given, and then how quickly this circuit tightens up as you enter the streets of St. Pete. Fantastic circuit, really does vary with the road course or the street course section of it, and then the literal airport runway that these drivers have to negotiate. It's a very unique concept for a track, and I absolutely love it.
Can't think of a country anywhere in the world that has more airports turned into racetracks than the UK.
That is true. That is true.
I think if I tried, I could name 5. Roberto Catalano is on the 16th lap of the race with a 4-second lead over Pete Thomas. Todd Scholl in 3rd. Those are the drivers heading towards the podium. A driver who's shown a whole lot of pace, but has come unravelled on 2 occasions in his opening race of the season is Trevor Lawrence. Started on the 2nd row of the grid. You see how unrefined this pace is from Trevor Lawrence, getting a little squirrely coming out of turn 9 there, almost running up the back of the driver in front coming into the final corner. Something that was his second error in this race was trying to get down the inside there of the final corner. Didn't work then, it hasn't worked this time. It's cost him a lot of momentum and he's beginning to burn through all that remains of his push to pass.
You really can find a driver's style just by watching them for a couple of laps, and you can see how aggressive and how much Trevor Lawrence likes to push the boundaries of this car. He's going to go from about 3 car lengths back down the inside and towards the right-hander of Ulf Olsen. Of course, he made the move on Ulf a good 10 laps ago, but getting involved in a second incident put him behind the number 70 once again. Nevertheless, it was a brave move up the inside for Trevor Lawrence, who's really pushing this Indy Next car to its absolute limits. And I'm all for it. I really do love it. It's an exciting driving style to watch, and it pairs perfectly with this very intimidating St. Petersburg track.
Looks like Hay and Holstrom here for 12th and 13th position. They exit turn 9. This is turn 10, this kink here. And then 11 has a bit of runoff straight on, but then tightens a lot on the exit. So 1 or 2 drivers just kick up some dust, scuffing the concrete on the exit there through into the final corner. Holstrom just opens it up a little bit more, so this is a real opportunity.
Absolutely, in towards the first corner. O'Malley is on the push to pass on the back of Shoemaker, and in towards the corner they go. Steve O'Malley will look to the inside line. Randy Shoemaker gets it all wrong, hits the wall on the outside there, and that was a completely unforced error from Randy Shoemaker. He's been able to keep the car relatively intact. Could have some minor damage, particularly to the aero, and maybe some suspension damage as well there, but he seems to be all right as he continues on lap number 19 of this race. And it's hard to believe this race has actually gone so quick. It feels like just 5 minutes ago we were getting going here at St. Petersburg.
Lap times just over a minute in these Indy Next cars, so they run through them quick. Speaks was the first driver to run out of push to pass. Michael Petrozak only has 1 second left. Roberto Catalano is dropping down the order. The race leader has massive damage on the number 9 car. Pete Thomas inherits the race lead, but with 3.5 seconds in his back pocket, cantering towards a race win to open the season, Roberto Catalano has found the wall and is dropping out of the top 10.
It's devastating for Roberto Catalano. Here is the replay just beginning lap number 19. Gets it completely wrong, takes off his front wing completely, and then has broken that front left suspension. Now, I believe that's down at turn number 8 actually, that he made that error, and that is a devastating end to the race for him. Pete Thomas will inherit the lead. Todd Scholl, now with about 25 seconds more push to pass than Pete Thomas, is closing that gap, just 2 seconds between them. This could be a very exciting race for the lead coming towards the end of this one.
Well, the podium positions have been reshuffled 100 times now. Michael Petrozak's coming for 7th place versus Eugene Clark. It's a move he's done well before, is down the inside of 1. That's pretty well placed. Bouncing a little bit of curb at turn 2 there, but getting his spot in the end. He's now up into 7th place.
Exciting
Where
race.
Roberto Catalano came undone, and it's where Ulf Olsen,
I believe so, yes.
yeah, is stopped with a bit of damage trying to get out of the way. So deceptively tricky corner there, apparently.
Well, yeah, very unfortunate for we believe Ulf Olsen there, but I'm not entirely sure myself. But nevertheless, yeah, I mean, It's been an incredibly fun race, and I think we've got a lot to thank. Here is the incident here. Into the corner that he goes, and it's a lot less terrifying than Catalan, as he just touches it enough to break off that front wing completely, be able to drive that one back to the pit lane, doesn't need a tow. But as I was saying, I think a lot of the excitement of this race has to we have to be thankful of Michael Petruzak. He's been making incredible moves this evening, used up all of his push to pass right from the get-go, but is held on very well.
Top three all using their push to pass down the front straight. Pete Thomas with 3 laps to go has just 7 seconds left. Todd Scholl's closed within 1.5 seconds and has plenty of push to pass to use to try to close that gap. It's a very powerful effect in these cars, more than 50 horsepower. So when you can use it effectively, there's quite a lot of time per lap to be found in it. Is there 1.4 seconds to be found in 20 seconds of push to pass? I would dare say yes. Todd Scholl, from 3rd place just a couple of laps ago, can see the possibility of opening the season with a race win, and pressure on a street circuit can so quickly lead to mistakes. Todd Scholl beginning to apply that to Pete Thomas. Kevin Bergquist running in 3rd place, dropped a little bit further back behind Todd Scholl than where he was at one point. Roger Shank and Gerhardus Jorrison in close company, 4th and 5th. We go on board with Jorrison now.
Jorrison is right on the rear of Roger Shank towards the final couple of corners here. These have been very quiet drivers in this race as they begin at the penultimate lap. Neither of them has very much push to pass left. They'll use the very last of it in towards turn number 1. Here comes Jorrison to the inside line. That was a very late defensive move from Roger Shank there, and a slight touch to the rear tyre as another car is stopped on the side of the road, sees Roger Shank into the wall and gets that car towed. Jorrison, I think, was within his rights to make that move up the inside line. It was a very late defensive move from Roger Shank there, hard into the wall, and that will end his race with just 2 laps to go.
Different lines into turn 1, and there's a different school of thought that says Shank was sort of pointing towards the apex of 1 there. Pete Thomas is going to start the final lap of the race. Damaged Ulf Olsen still going around there, not quite what Todd Scholl wants. He swaps to the inside to try to get past. The gap grows to 1.5 seconds. Kevin Bergquist 2 seconds behind that in 3rd place. Pete Thomas on a victory lap that I'm not sure he expected maybe even 5 laps ago. Roberto Catalano, one of the form drivers of this field, would have been cruising towards the race win before a mistake at turn 7 cost him dearly. Pete Thomas negotiates turn 8 now. What's he going to do with his remaining 5 seconds of push to pass other than punch out of the final corner towards the checkered flag that waits for him?
Yeah, he's done well in this race. I thought that Todd Scholl was closing a little bit too close for comfort, but Pete Thomas has done very well. He's kept out of trouble, and when other drivers made mistakes, he's held on well.
Qualified 2nd place, but now will finish with the win and 5 seconds of push to pass still in his back pocket. 60 Plus Racing Adventures' first trip to St. Petersburg, and the first race is won by the man that they're going to have to call St. Pete. He leads the championship at the first race. Todd Scholl and Kevin Bergquist joining him on the podium. Great battles throughout the field. You can see Shoemake and Hallström still together here. Shoemake's just ahead. And we have I think, lap down Greg Garris just in behind.
It's very fitting that Pete Thomas wins the race at St. Pete, and another Pete here, Peter Hallström, is looking to try and make a move on Randy Shoemaker. I think he's going to run out of time on the very last lap here. He's going to have a look just and see what he can come up with, but it doesn't seem like there'll be much. Nevertheless, off the exit, they could see a nice run to the line. I believe they will stay as they are. So Shoemaker 9th, Hellstrom in 10th, rounding out that top 10 position. But that brings us to the end of race number 1. And isn't it an exciting prospect? We've got another one on the way.
Well, this result sheet makes Pete Thomas look more dominant than he felt, but he gets the fastest lap of the race. He gets the race win, and he becomes the championship leader, all off the back of an unforced error from Roberto Catalano, who was leading for more than half the race. Todd Scholl and Kevin Bergquist join him on a tightly packed opening podium. They were head and shoulders clear of the rest, more than 20 seconds from Gerhardus Jorgensen in 4th, Russ Addy in 5th, and Michael Pietrzak fighting his way up through the field. Probably most moves for the driver who finished 6th, but not the most positions gained. That was plus 12 for Addy. Steve O'Malley then in 7th, Eugene Clark in 8th, Randy Shoemake 9th, and Peter Hallstrom completes the top 10. I believe he was last driver on the lead lap. It is a super quick lap around the streets of St. Pete here, underneath 3 kilometers. I can read that. It says JC Hay in 11th, Trevor Lawrence in 12th. Roger Shank, this is where it's gotten confused. Towed on the penultimate lap and has been towed across the checkered flag into 13th place. I think the tow has put him ahead of Earl Setzer, who also finished 1 lap back. Might see this update to see Roger Shank as the last car on the lead lap, ahead of Setzer, McCormick and Catalano, but I don't know how that will be officially scored in the end, but it will presumably put him still ahead of Ulf Olsen, Barry Hills and Greg Garris, all 2 laps down. Oyvind Anderson 6 laps down. Douglas Beasley 8 laps down. Jerry Kerr an early retirement, and Frank Butler doesn't appear on this because he didn't take the start, so it doesn't think he was part of the race at all.
I think the main thing we can take away from these set of results is that staying out of trouble is the way to go around St. Pete. You see how many drivers made up 5+ positions. Jorgensen finished 4th, started this race in 10th. Russ Addy was the biggest mover, going up 12 positions in this race. Steve O'Malley was up 8, Shoemake was up 7, and it's just showing the power of keeping it clean around here. So maybe heading into race number 2, we'll see other drivers adopt that style of driving.
Hopefully race 1 has taught them all something they can bring to race 2. There's no better experience than experience itself. Pete Thomas has the first race win of the season in 60 Plus Racing Adventures. Can Catalano bounce back in race number 2? That's what we're going to find out when 60 Plus Racing Adventures comes back in a few minutes' time with race number 2 from St. Pete. back on the streets of St. Pete. There's one race left in this round of 60 plus racing adventures from St. Petersburg. David Haynes here with Dan Field, Hugo Lewis on production as RaceSpotTV brings you coverage of this opening round, a new season of 60 plus racing adventures. The iRacing League for drivers 60 years of age or older, and there are so many championships within this league now. GT3 cars, in NASCAR, but this is the longest running of them all in the junior open wheelers. A shift from chassis to chassis over the multiple seasons. We find ourselves now in the Indy Next car, and in this new season, it's Pete Thomas who has claimed the first crown. Race number 2 ahead of us. Dan, we head into qualifying.
Absolutely, and we've been able to catch it right at the beginning, so we'll see laps as they come. We are watching Greg Garris beginning his run as it goes, and if the first race was anything to go off of, then we are in for a very exciting season of 60 plus racing adventures Indy Next. It was incredible to see race number 1 unfold, and hoping race 2 is just as exciting as Garris is taking now towards turn at number 10, I believe it is, up next. It's been a relatively clean lap from him thus far. He was sort of nowhere last time out in race number 1, so he's hoping for a good start today.
Yes, I believe we're about to see the first timed laps out of our drivers in this session. Greg Garris negotiates the final corner. Look at those limp flags along the front straight, nary a breath of wind to be found. Perfect conditions for qualifying. Greg Garris' first time is a minute 6. Short lap here should provide plenty more opportunity for more tyre temperature to build into the second lap. The tyres won't reach their peak around such a short lap until lap 2. Kevin Bergquist goes to the top. Russ Addy slots into what was third until Roberto Catalano usurps them all and heads to the top. 2 tenths clear. Todd Scholl matches it down to the 100th of a second. So close. There's only so many corners, so many kilometers to differentiate yourself. 2 drivers at the top of their game will always be very close around here.
That was an incredible lap time from Trevor Lawrence there. A 1 minute 4.771, blowing everyone else out of the water. I was just thinking about race number 1's pole time was a 1 minute 50, I believe, and that's what these drivers should be aiming for in this session as well. But Trevor Lawrence shuts me right up before I could even begin talking. Here comes Mike McCormick, involved in an incident in the first race. We'll be hoping for retribution in this second one as he will complete his lap to come across the line. What will the lap time be for McCormick? It'll be a 1 minute 5.532. That's a mid-top 10 starts, P6 for him.
Roberto Catalano's second time comes in, but it cannot dislodge Trevor Lawrence from provisional pole position. Pete Thomas on his second lap right now looks to be improving. So much confidence to him now that he's got the win already banked. Purple first sector, PBs through 2 and 3, loses just a tiny bit of time through 4th, jumps himself up into 3rd place in these standings, and Trevor Lawrence, I think, has abandoned his second flying lap. So the first one was good enough for the provisional pole. Kahatis Yorasen's on his second of 2 flying laps. He's one of a couple of drivers with laps in their pocket. Push to pass in qualifying, so that number displays 0 for absolutely everybody. Yorasen's sectors not improving much as I would have expected. Still, we'll see how this one closes out.
Absolutely, he's looking to approach the line now. It's a 1 minute 47 to beat, a 1 minute 54. Kahatis Yorasen will take, and that will see him up into 6th position, just 1 spot above where he formerly was. He jumps ahead of Mike McCormick. Randy Shoemake is on a run as it goes. He's 2 seconds off the pace at the minute, so he needs to make it count on this second lap. He was very involved in racing in the mid-pack throughout the first race. Sees himself 16th on the grid at the minute. He'll approach the line now. Will there be any improvement from Randy Shoemake to come across the line? It's a 1 minute 6.7 from him. That's a disappointing lap from Randy Shoemake.
I think he, at least in qualifying, struggled with this circuit as Russ Addy runs a little deeper than you'd like at turn 4. He did tow the car at some point in qualifying, whether he maybe hit the wall on his out lap or on his first flying lap. So Shoemake is in 16th. Anderson and Setzer both went out and didn't set time, so they might have also found the wall. Russ Addy wants all the practice he can get. He's done his 2 laps that you get for qualifying. The clock's not up yet, so he's still out there. I'm trying to think of an example or a euphemism for that. The stopwatch is no longer counting, but yeah, he's not coming home till the street lights come on.
Absolutely. As we continue along watching this session, it seems like these drivers are just looking to get some more running in, try and really dial themselves in after the short break that we had. And I mean, even for such a short period of time being out of the cockpit and doing something else, it really can reset you. So you really need all the preparation in these practice and qualifying sessions that you can get. We've got a slightly smaller grid this time by than we did in the first race. There's no names that are leaping out to me that are missing from the first race that were, involved in a lot of exciting drama. So it seems like we've not lost anything major in this second race, as Shoemake gets very high on the curb there and gives a little love tap to the outside wall.
Testing the limits at turn 11. Testing the limits at turn 14. Russ Addy still out there in search. He's qualifying for race 1 was also a little down the order, but then he finished in the top 5. He was the driver with the most positions gained, and he's going to have to do the same again in race number 2.
Absolutely. He was the highest gainer in the previous race. I believe he started 17th position, ended up in P5 by the end of it. So Russ Addy knows how to keep it clean, knows how to make overtakes. Was very exciting to watch in that first race in arguably the most beautiful livery that we've got on the grid this evening. So watch out for that blue and white machine, as we've just got over 1.5 minutes left of qualifying. I don't believe, David, there's any more lap times to be set today.
Possible that Shoemake has a lap that counts, but other than that, I think we're all done. Owen Anderson got back out on track and then pulls away again, and him and Setzer will remain without lap times. Randy Shoemake, no, he's out of laps too. So with just a minute left, it's Addy and Shoemake. The rest of the drivers are preparing for race number 2. Roberto Catalano, surprisingly, will be starting out of 4th place. We never saw him have to race wheel to wheel with anyone in race 1. He was leading and then he was out. So what does he deliver for us in race 2?
It's all well and good that he is able to, run away from the pack and qualify on pole position around this new circuit of St. Petersburg. It's clear that he's got the confidence to drive over one lap and follow his lines perfectly, but to race someone, it's a completely different ball game to qualifying and leading the field on your own. So Roberto Catalano has definitely got to keep his wits about him heading into this second race, especially with the fact that Pete Thomas, his closest rival in the first race, now starts ahead of him, and neither of them are on the front row. I mean, it's certainly shifted the dynamic as now the qualifying session comes to an end. Trevor Lawrence on pole position.
Absolutely. Let's look at the grid for race 2. Different than race 1 for sure, with Trevor Lawrence on pole, Todd Scholl in second. Pete Thomas, a race 1 winner, will start from third alongside the reigning champion Roberto Catalano. Kevin Bergqvist on the podium in race number 1 will start from 5th in race number 2. Gerhardus Jorrison there in 6th. Mike McCormick in 7th with Barry Hills in 8th. Douglas Beasley 9th. Michael Pietrzak, one of the most exciting drivers to watch in race 1, starts from 10th. Greg Garris in 11th and Russ Addy in 12th, with some work to do to reach the top 5 again. Peter Holstrom in 13th, Ulf Olsen in 14th, Eugene Clark and Randy Shoemake were the last drivers to set times in qualifying. Oyvind Andersen and Earl Setzer left the pit lane in qualifying, got out on track, but neither of them set lap times. Trevor Lawrence is leading the field behind the pace car not long till we get the green flag. Once again, 24 laps. Once again, everyone starts with 65 seconds of push to pass to use at their discretion after lap 2. And Trevor Lawrence trying to make sure he's got perfect tyre temperature as the green flag waves. 18 cars on track, roar down towards turn 1 to open race number 2. Lawrence and Scholl with a good getaway, but it's from 3rd, 4th, 5th on back that things get a little tougher. Roberto Catalano makes that move into 3rd place. He's already trying to jump up some spots.
They're all through the first corner very cleanly. Turns number 2 and 3 is where the circuit tightens up, and hopefully everyone can keep it nice and tidy. Here is Russ Addy up the inside of McCormick and Pietrzak as they're nearly 3 abreast in towards turn number 4. They keep it all clean, and Russ Addy is at a very good start, up 4 places from the start already. We're barely halfway through the lap.
The circuit exiting turns 8 and 9. Tyres will be cold for everyone. Track temperature up at 30 degrees Celsius though means the temperature should climb pretty rapidly. Going deep with a little bit of a lock-up. Down at turn 11, I think everyone stayed on track, but Garris has lost a couple of spots. Into the final corner, turn 14 we go. Todd Scholl got a good exit, closing in a little bit on Trevor Lawrence, who's converted his pole position into the lead at the end of lap 1. Top 4 all going at good pace. A bit of a gap then to Pete Thomas in 5th. We're looking at Russ Addy, who's already made 4 positions this race.
A blinding start from Russ Addy. Mike McCormick is keeping him very close company. We jump to the front of the order for the battle for 3rd. Gerhardus Jorrison has jumped up 2 spots in this race. He trails Roberto Catalano, the pole sitter and leader for the majority of the first race, who ended his race in the wall on lap number 22. He runs in 3rd position. But Trevor Lawrence, a fantastic start from him at the very front of the order, though. Hasn't pulled out the... Oh, my goodness me! And as I say that, Trevor Lawrence spins it, and there's a huge accident headed down. Everyone's trying to find their way through, and that has really shaken up the lead.
A gigantic pile-up at turn 11 as the leader makes a mistake, and then the rest of them drive in. Roberto Catalano negotiates the chaos to the race lead. Kevin Bergqvist in 2nd with Russ Addy, 9 positions gained on the race in 3rd. There are some massively damaged cars and a salvage lot of parts down at turn 11. Oyvind Andersen also driving into that with a meatball flag. Huge accident. Catalano, Bergqvist and Addy cutting their way through. Mike McCormick and Michael Pietrzak into 4th and 5th as Olsen, Shoemake and Garris battle here.
It's a blind... It's the exit of turn number 11 is nearly completely blind, and you're coming in, you're getting onto the throttle, and then all of a sudden there's 3 stopped cars in front of you. Here is the replay of Trevor Lawrence, who just drops the car on his own. And then there was no avoiding it for the drivers behind. Jorrison got involved, and there's a big shunt there as well. And this is completely shaken up the race now. It's Catalano leading from Bergqvist. Russ Addy is in 3rd position, up 9 spots in the first 2.5 laps of this race.
Nothing short of chaos. This is a replay again. Roberto Catalano threads the only gap before it's then sealed shut. Bergquist also squeaks his way through. Mike McCormick getting through. Russ Addy came through that into third. And then Petersburg never one to shy away. He's, I think, twice tried to pass down there at turn 14, and that's the first time it's worked. Ulf Olsen's run wide and down the runoff at turn 4, so he's got to reverse that around. Could perhaps do it slightly more dignified than that, as that's going slow. Mike McCormick, I believe.
A lot more incidents occurring at the beginning of this race. We saw last time Ulf Olsen bailed out at the exact last minute. Here is Mike McCormick. He drops it at the rear and then has to rejoin the circuit very, very slowly. But it's been a bit of a rough start to this race, and that has completely spread the field out. Look at the gap between the top two and the rest of the field. And I've heard someone had a crash, and oh my goodness me, it's Petersburg and Shoemake, the pair of them.
Some people learn quicker than others, and Michael Petersburg has again attempted a pass at turn 14, and he struck out 3 of 4 times with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real shame. I think he got on the grass ever so slightly, and it sort of messed up his braking there, and then he caught the rear right of Randy Shoemake. Yeah, you see him dip a couple tyres into the grass. That halts his braking, and then they make contact, the pair of them, with some big damage there. They'll have to pit for some repairs.
Catalano leading, Kevin Bergquist in second with the fastest lap of the race. Russ Addy in third, but lost so much time navigating the car park at turn 11 that he is 13 seconds behind the race lead. First and second are out of here. Greg Garris in fourth, but Peter Holstrom and Eugene Clark are fifth and sixth, and Beasley, Lawrence and Shoemake, that's this group. Trevor Lawrence still seems to be missing his front wing after all of that.
He seems to be running all right. I mean, he'll have a lot less downforce, of course, in the corners, but if he's able to run with it and he's happy to, I mean, why not keep going? He's in 11th position, trying to track down Douglas Beasley. He's doing a grand job at it. I mean, why not keep going?
I am still waiting for this to somehow go catastrophically wrong, but he runs in 11th place at the moment, does the pole sitter. Beasley just ahead of him, Randy Shoemake trying to stick close behind. Pete Thomas in 13th sets a new fastest lap of the race. So the race 1 winner getting tangled in the turn 11 melee. He's prepared his car, got back out on track just on the lead lap, and he, with some clean air, is flying along. Clark behind Hallstrom, pretty much equal last lap. 2 drivers allergic to push to pass.
Yeah, they've not used a single ounce of it. Neither has Greg Garris, a couple seconds up the road from them. So these guys have been able to stay out of the drama, make up a whole heap of positions, and just run their race, and they're happy where they are. But Eugene Clark will look to go on the offensive soon on Peter Hellstrom. Russ Addy dipping his toes into the push to pass. He's got about 2.5 seconds to Greg Garris behind him, but a whopping 15 seconds almost to Roberto Catalano at the front of the order, who's doing what he did in the first race, absolutely running away with it. Now the gap between himself and Kevin Bergquist, 5.4.
Sets are dropping behind Barry Hills as Hallstrom continues to lead Eugene Clark onto lap 8. Wide late turn into 1 for Hallstrom. It's a long corner but not a tight corner, and that's why you see different lines through there also as it narrows just a little bit at the exit.
nice little battle we're witnessing between Hellstrom and Clark. Again, the pair of them very hesitant to use the push to pass, and very early on in this race at this point. You know, we're only on lap number 9 of 24. We're approaching the halfway mark. Of course, it is a very quick lap around here, so that will reach us sooner rather than later. And these guys will have to get a move on. Eugene Clark is very close to the rear this time by, slightly closer than he was the previous lap by. But again, not touching the push to pass, happy to stay where he is.
Continuously, it's Pete Thomas who's the fastest driver out on track. This is Trevor Lawrence. Another mistake at turn 11. This one more understandable, he's got no front wing on. How's the reverse though? Lawrence now down into 13th place. When that happened, Pete Thomas came through. Trevor Lawrence pits now, presumably new front wing. I'd also go a new set of tyres in his shoes, to be honest.
I'll have to start using my second hand soon to count how many incidents Trevor Lawrence has had so far this evening. It has been a tumultuous night of racing for him today. And in a race that is incredibly spread out all the way along, it's good to see that Hellstrom and Clark are still keeping each other company as this race goes on. I believe that was only a 5-second stop for Trevor Lawrence, so I don't believe that he will be taking a new front wing. There'll be no repairs onto that car. We'll see once we get him into picture once again what he's actually done with his Indy Next car, still relatively new to the iRacing service as opposed to the brand new St. Petersburg here today. It is a very fun track combination, as you can see.
Eugene Clark still stuck behind Peter Hellstrom. If only there was a way to get a short burst of extra momentum to make it easier to facilitate a pass.
If only. There was only...
And if such a system existed, what would you call it? No way to know. On board with Eugene Clark, demonstrating that all 65 of his 65 seconds of push to pass remain unsullied. McCormick seems to have found a problem a little bit further back. I wonder if he's also run deep at one of the corners. Clark. It's tidy and it's consistent. Incredibly not making enough progress for him. With 13 laps to go, Barry Hill's behind them. Was more than a second quicker, so at that rate, Hills will get them.
Hills has used the push to pass though, so effectively, you know, these guys are in a league of their own. Really struggling to find it. I mean, I remember it was China 2019 Formula 1. Lance Stroll was using his radio button to try and use the overtake. I wonder if there's a similar situation happening here. But Eugene Clark, he doesn't need the push to pass to close the gap to Peter Hellstrom. He's very close through turn number 11, 12, 13 now, and through the final corner they go. I want to say that he'll go for it soon, but a poor exit from Clark there means that Hellstrom is going to be able to just ever so slightly eke a gap out, which means that Clark won't have an opportunity to use the push to pass.
Well, with many damaged cars in this race, as we take a look at what happened to Mike McCormick. Yep, just a bit of a lock-up running deep into turn 11. Managed to avoid hitting the wall too hard. Elsetzer ran wide at 1. If he had any damage there, he was trying to stay out of the way. But with the many damaged cars that we've got, a bit of lap traffic could play into Peter Hellstrom and Eugene Clark. They are catching... it might be Ulf Olsen, Trevor Lawrence and Gerhardus Jorrison. Yeah, Olsen's the next one up the road. Shoemake and Setzer, I believe here looks like... Pete Thomas making a move on Douglas Beasley. There's also another move happening elsewhere on the timing. Whoa. Oh, big smoke in the air for Beasley.
Dear me, I dropped that on his own. Very unfortunate. It might possibly on the dirty side of the circuit, and That'll leave him vulnerable to Randy Shoemake, who in that contact with Michael Petersburg has been able to keep on running. I thought I saw on the replay that his rear wing came off, but it was a very light touch to the barrier, so I guess, you know, it might have been a netcode thing. But yeah, Randy Shoemake still in this race on the back of Douglas Beasley. Two very active drivers in the 60-plus racing adventures, as now Pete Thomas is through on Mike McCormick. Both Beasley and Shoemake, they race in ARCA, I believe NASCAR as well. They have a great time racing here, and it really does show the testament of how incredible this racing series is. I mean, it shows there's no limitation on sim racing, and in 40 or so years time I hope to still be doing whatever sim racing has become by that point in time.
Say something snarky, but I'll leave that one for another day. Past the halfway point of the race, Roberto Catalano leads. He was leading at the halfway point of race number 1 though, so wonder what's on his mind as he leads Bergqvist by 4 seconds.
Yeah, he's really just running away with it. He's relaxed at the minute. He's dropped a bit of time to Bergqvist, but you know, I mean, it's nothing major, and if he runs at this pace that he is now, he'll win this race comfortably. It was only 0.2 of a second that Bergqvist took out on him last lap by. We're still spectating this battle between Hellstrom and Clark, and we are still yet to see either of them touch the push to pass. Ulf Olsen could be a little bit of a cork in the bottle for these guys, especially through the corners. Nevertheless, Clark looks close to the rear of Hellstrom, but again, if he just pressed that button, you have the move on.
Turn 11, Olsen stays to the left. I've combined his first and second names. Hellstrom and Clark face no resistance. Hellstrom taking that sort of wider line through turn 14. Olsen sort of cutting back a little bit later.
There's a couple of drivers in the first race that didn't touch their push to pass at all. I believe that, I know for a fact Steve O'Malley was one of them who isn't present in this second race, and I'm wondering if we can add Peter Hellstrom and Eugene Clark to that list, or if there's some sort of mutual agreement for them to use their 65 seconds on the last lap, which coincidentally is just over 65 seconds, and that would be funny if they did the entire lap around here just burning the battery.
Not a battery.
Well, I'm a Formula One elitist at heart. Okay. The button.
Turbo boost, ever heard of it? We're side by side down the front straight as Trevor Lawrence is still trying to scythe his way back to some positions. The pole sitter for race number 2 passes Oyvind Anderson. Up ahead of him is Greg Garris, 4th place, 1 lap clear. As Lawrence runs quite deep into turn 4. A lap and 20 seconds behind the race leader.
How about that? He's got his front wing back as well.
It's certainly been very useful for him to have that back. One of the drivers who hadn't touched any push to pass and has now found it is Greg Garris, so he is not wanting to let Trevor Lawrence get his lap back too easily. Yeah,
he's got the Apex GP logo on the side, so he's channeling his Sonny Hayes to not let anyone by without a fight.
Calm back.
Calm back, calm back, calm back. I mean, they do build these cars for combat, you've got to say. I mean, these Indy Next cars are just a joy to watch, and with only 65 seconds of push to pass available, you'd think that's not a lot of time compared to the 150 they had before, but I mean, these you know, Hellstrom, Clark, and I'm trying to see if anyone else along the grid hasn't touched it. No, these are the only 2 now. They really are making the most of that 65 seconds.
Problems for Trevor Lawrence, Oyvind Anderson, and Douglas Beasley by the looks of things. Smoke in the air at turn 8. Let's take a look at Beasley heading into turn 14. Too much curb. He's ended up backwards. Has anything happened as he's rejoined? Well, he certainly put on a display down at turn 14. It's Trevor Lawrence who's locked the rears, scraped the wall, and then been nudged by Anderson.
Anderson had nowhere to go at that point there. Really unfortunate. But they seem to be alright. Doesn't seem to be a major hit like we have seen in this race. A couple cars airborne this evening as well. Been very exciting. And with these two running in 5th and 6th, they've invited Barry Hills into the battle, making it now a 3-car fight for a top 5 finish. On lap number 18 of 24, we could actually see an exciting run to the end for the top 5.
Yep, Catalano is still leading from Bergquist, Rosati and Greg Garris. I think getting closer. Garris has managed to close that gap in between Hallstrom and Clark. Now Barry Hills changes the dynamic here of 5th, 6th and 7th. Clark much closer to Hallstrom, super deep on the brakes for Barry Hills. And that looks like it's Trevor Lawrence, and he has been involved in so many incidents. He's actually received a DQ, disqualification from the race. The pole sitter, it couldn't unravel any further than this.
Really is a disappointing end to the race for him. And I mean, with the way that we've seen him racing today, I think it's been it's been interesting, but I'd say he's got to rein it in a little bit for future rounds of the 60+ Racing Adventures Indy Next. Season 38. I've never seen a league go 38 seasons. It's very, very impressive. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence out of this race from pole position. What a fall from grace.
Well, he's climbed Mount Everest and then he's gotten dizzy at the altitude, I think. Barry Hills had a little bit of a look at trying to outbrake Eugene Clark, and now he's dropped back.
Still yet to press their button. I wonder if Barry Hills is going to get on, push the pass off the exit and try and cause some issues for these guys. We are now beginning lap number 20 of 24. Barry Hills is indeed on the push to pass. And once again, with 5 laps to go, oh dear me, Eugene Clark gets it a little bit wrong into the first corner and keeps it out of the wall, but has conceded 6th position to Barry Hills.
The end of this race duration, an extended amount of marbles will have piled up out there, so you just get a little bit wide and then there's a little bit less grip.
Unfortunate, but now that will create a little bit of urgency possibly in Eugene Clark to maybe get a little bit more aggressive in this race. He's falling off the back of Peter Hallstrom and Barry Hills, and is now he's still a decent way ahead of Pete Thomas and Mike McCormick behind him. Shouldn't see any issues with them as this race comes to a close very soon. But yeah, nevertheless, Eugene Clark still within a shot of a top 5 finish. It's looking very unlikely now.
Through the sequence of turns 1, 2 and 3, and Hallstrom a bit deep into 1, puts him on a compromise line through 2, then compromises him through 3, down towards turn 4, Barry Hills reaches the braking zone before he reaches Peter Hallstrom. Begins to apply a little bit of pressure. For Hills, he's got just 6 seconds of push to pass left. He's going to have to use them very strategically. So close through turns 8 and 9. Does he think he's close enough that now is the time to use all of his remaining boost? He doesn't. He doesn't. Heading down towards turn 11. Scene of a massive pile-up involving the race leader relatively early on. Hills might look to save it for the front straight now or in a lap's time.
Takes a wider berth through the final corner, but I think that's actually hindered him. It's more of a double apex final turn there, and so Barry Hills will not really be able to close all that much. He does get a little bit of push to pass activation, about 5 seconds of it, leaving him with a meager 1 second of boost left to use. But that is better than the absolute zero that Peter Hellstrom is intent on using throughout this race. We're on lap number 22 of 24. This was the point... Oh dear, as Eugene Clark kisses the outside wall. This was the point last race by that Roberto Catalano put it into the wall. So never say never for anything that could happen in this race.
No, certainly not. Catalano on lap 23 of 24 with still 1.5 to go, and I'm sure he'll be counting them down. Bergqvist has run with him this whole race, not let that lead get out beyond 5 seconds just yet. They are 30 seconds clear of Russ Addy. That gap has grown across this race. Catalano and Bergqvist are untouchable in their pace and consistency. Russ Addy ahead of Greg Garris. Peter Hellstrom here just ahead of Barry Hills as they see the start-finish line to give themselves 2 laps to go. Eugene Clark back there is under so much pressure. Pete Thomas is flying. He's used all of his push to pass, but has the fastest lap of the race, fastest car on the track last lap. Was Thomas, and then Mike McCormick and Randy Shoemake complete the top 10. Only the top 9 are on the lead lap as Roberto Catalano begins the final lap of the race at St. Pete.
Yeah, after the incident with Trevor Lawrence and everyone else behind, I mean, it's been the Catalano show throughout the entirety of it. He's completely dominated this one. He's got one more tour of the circuit until he takes the win that he lost last time by. It seems like he's making a statement of intention about how he plans for this season to go out, as here is Roberto Catalano approaching the final few corners. He's in turn number 9 now. Barring an act of God, this is his race to win.
It's the words of Dan Field. I'm David Haynes, the innocent one in this, if he's just been jinxed on his final lap. Quick change of direction there, the very final corner, the turn 14 hairpin. And Roberto Catalano qualified 4th. He might have been a little bit disappointed, but then the seas parted for him, and he will win race 2 from St. Pete. The defending champion strikes back. Just behind him, Kevin Bergqvist, pretty pleased with, I think, 2 races on the podium. Russ Addy's coming around for 3rd. Peter Hellstrom has the blowtorch on from Barry Hills, but Hills has no push to pass left, and behind them, Eugene Clark with Pete Thomas with no push to pass left.
Very close racing for 6th position and 5th position and 7th position, a little bit further behind. Peter Hellstrom looks to be fending off the attack of Barry Hills, and he set it out from the very start. Peter Hellstrom did not use a single second of push to pass. Will come across the line in 5th position. Hills in 6th. 7th is Clark. Thomas gets very close to him, but recovers after the incident with Trevor Lawrence to 8th position. That will bring us to the end of round number 1 of this season.
Race wins going to Pete Thomas and Roberto Catalano, and Pete Thomas takes the fastest lap of the race in both as well. Kevin Bergqvist on the podium twice. Russ Addy, another race with the most positions gained. When he figures out qualifying, that man is going to be unstoppable. Greg Garris ran him all the way to the line, though just 0.2 of a second apart, as Greg Garris used his push to pass out of the final corner to try to beat Russ Addy to the line. Peter Hellstrom held on to 5th under pressure all race long, has sustained that to get 5th place. Barry Hills pushing him to 6th. Eugene Clark holding on, being pushed by Pete Thomas. And Mike McCormick was the last driver on the lead lap. Randy Shoemake 1 lap down. Douglas Beasley, Earl Setzer and Oyvind Anderson likewise. Ulf Olsen 2 laps back. Trevor Lawrence I think this is another case of when you look at the results later on, they'll look different, because I believe Trevor Lawrence has been DQ'd from this race and will get shuffled behind Gerhardus Jorgensen, Michael Petruzak and Todd Scholl.
Yeah, they were all non-finishers. Jorgensen actually dropped it at the same time that Trevor Lawrence got DQ'd, and he decided that he had enough. Of course, we saw the issues with Petruzak and Todd Scholl that saw them out of the race, but what a spectacular evening of racing today. Pete Thomas and Roberto Catalano, huge congratulations to them.
Yeah, I want to hold just 10 seconds here in the hope that Roberto Catalano might come speak to us. He knows where to find us, and he's spoken to us before, but there's no sign of the race 2 winner. And the man with a bit of pressure on his shoulders as the defending champion. Just, yeah, that's why I said 10 seconds. And, you know, speak of the Roberto and he shall appear. The race winner from race 2 joins us. Roberto, are you feeling some pressure? What happened in race 1?
Yes, thank you. Sorry for my bad English. In race 1, I did a great mistake. I have a big margin, 4 or 5 seconds, and it's a great mistake. It happens, and I was lucky in race 2. There was an accident being me. I don't know how I pass because there are very little space, but I was very lucky, and I do not mistake, and I won.
The new track, obviously, it's very challenging. A Circuito Cittadino.
Yes, it's very tricky. You cannot distract a moment. Every turn is a trap. It's very difficult, and we have small time to prepare this race, because the track was in iRacing 10 days ago. It's very tricky track.
Did you know that on the Italian Wikipedia article for Circuito Cittadino, the picture is of St. Petersburg?
Yes, Circuito Cittadino is in Italy. We haven't Circuito Cittadino. Fortunately, we have only permanent tracks, but it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Monte Carlo, I think, is the most famous of Circuito Cittadino, and St. Petersburg, it's difficult as Monte Carlo, or perhaps worst.
Well, Roberto, great to speak to you. Great that in race 2 you could defend your honor and also defend your reigning championship.
Thank you, and thanks for all. Goodbye.
Race 2 winner Roberto Catalano joining us there as I learnt some new Italian phrases. Kicked off the championship here at St. Petersburg, but we go to some Circuito more permanents later on with Barber Suzuka, Portimao, before another street circuit at Long Beach, and you'll see us here on RaceSpotTV for 60 plus racing adventures Indy next time at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit before they go on to the remainder of the championship. I've been David Haynes with Dan Field, Hugo Lewis in the production from RaceSpotTV. Race wins at St. Petersburg to kick off a new season. Go to Pete Thomas and Roberto Catalano.